Well, today we talk about the validity and reliability of a research instrument. Let's define research instrument first. It is a tool for you to collect data for your research, right? And when we say that we are conducting a study, a research, academic study, basically we need to make sure that we have three major components. One is the definition of the research problem. You need to have a research problem, right? And the second one is the data collection. You need to have data. And the third one is data analysis. So problem definition, research problem, data collection, and data analysis is a triad for this circle, complete circle. So imagine this, if you claim yourself you are conducting a research, but you do not have data to collect, then you do not have a study at all. At best, you have a philosophical debate to yourself, right? Philosophy, the good side for the philosophy is that you can only think. You can talk, you can argue, you can use the theory of induction or deduction to come over a lot of reasonings and just talk, right? So basically, you do not need to collect data if you are conducting a philosophical debate. Okay, but unfortunately, when we say that we are doing a research, then we need to collect data. Okay, and now if you want to collect data, then you need to have something for the tool, some tools for you to collect data. Is that right? It's very important. The tool in our research we call research instrument. Research instruments can be many different forms. It's okay. But overall, when we say that research instrument, we need to consider several important issues. One is validity. The other one is reliability. So that is why we are talking about today, establishing the validity and the reliability of a research instrument. It's very important. Okay, let's go forward to today's context. So this is our goal for today. We will learn the concept of the validity and reliability. What is that? Validity, reliability in Chinese, 效度 and 信度. 效度 indicate whether it is 有效, valid or not. Reliability, whether it is dependable, that it can trust the result or not. So that is 信度, 可信的程度. Okay, so the concept of validity and reliability is very important. Why? Because it appears everywhere in the research. It appears everywhere in the research. If your research, if you are using an invalid tool, research instrument to collect data, then any data analysis based on this invalid data will be invalid, which means you have no research at all, right? For example, again, I want to investigate the average height of the students here, right? So of course I need to have a research instrument. That will be a height scale. But today, if I use a weight scale to collect data, of course I will have a lot of data to collect, right? So after my collection, I found out the average height of my students is only 55. Huh? What does that mean, right? So imagine this. I have done a lot of efforts in data collection and also data analysis. I can perform a lot of complicated and sophisticated statistical analysis on this group of numbers. I can manipulate, I can operate, I can show off, right? How much knowledge about the statistical analysis I know. But in the end, I present a set of very ridiculous findings. Is that right? Why makes this kind of trouble? Because I started with an invalid research instrument. Is that right? Very simple, very simple. So the research instrument needs to be valid. And of course, how to create a valid research instrument is very important, of course, right? Unlike the measurement of the height, the height scale is available in the market, right? But when we conduct our research, oftentimes we will be required to create our own research instrument. For example, a questionnaire. You need to construct a questionnaire. How are you going to make sure that the construction of a questionnaire is valid enough, is valid, that is capable to collect the data you want to collect? So it's kind of very important. Second one, we will be able to learn our types of validity. Basically, there are two general types: internal validity and external validity. Of course, there are some other types you can refer to. If you learn statistics, then there will be statistical analysis validity, statistic validity, but that's another story. But for general understanding, internal validity and external validity will be good enough. Okay? And you will learn factors affecting the reliability of the research instrument. Validity means that whether the data you collect is the data you want to collect to answer your research question, right? But how about reliability? Reliability indicates whether the data collection is consistent, the measurement is consistent or not. Okay, let's take a break. And so we need to understand the factors affecting the reliability of the research, and also we will learn the methods of determining the reliability of an instrument. So here are our goals for today. And let's continue to the next slide. Let's talk about validity. Validity. Let's look at this one. Basically, when we talk about validity, we ask one very important but simple question. That is the research investigation providing answers to the research questions for which it was once undertaken? That is, basically, you have the research questions, right? And you need to collect data. And the data should be able to answer the question you pose for your research question, right? Should be able. So basically, if you ask this question, it is, then all the process you have conducted are valid. If it is not, then it is invalid. And it is very important to keep the validity at all points. Why? Because let's imagine this. When we conduct our research, we will do a lot of steps. We will start it from, let's say, A. We will start from A and to B. And we move on to C and move on to D. And move on to blah, 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 blah. And maybe the last step is not only Z, maybe Z, right? A lot of stuff. When we say that we are doing a research, then we need to have valid answers for our research questions, right? Then we have to make sure, we have to make sure about this. This is valid. This is, oops, so small. This is valid. This is valid. This is valid. And this. All the connection must be valid out there. If in some case, the validity link is severed at some point, this one is wrong. It's not valid. Then all your efforts start from A to Z has been cut off. Then all the arguments you provided here will be invalid. Why? Because the link here has been severed, right? So the validity issue refers to this. Every time you have to make sure the link point stands true, stand valid. Okay, it's very important. But to be honest, it's very, very difficult for the beginning scholars to make sure of this. But at least you have to keep in mind, right? Because if I really very bad in just trying to read, if I really thoroughly keep the standards, then most of the GPs will fail. But unfortunately, I'm not such a bad guy, right? But You still need to look up yourself. You know you can do. But this is a very simple idea. Is that right? We have to make sure that all the link here stay valid. We have to make sure there is no severance here. So here we just make sure, it's good, it's staying true, then I'll be fine. True. Okay? Question? So be careful for this one. So let's look at this. When we ask this one, basically, let's say this one. Can we use weight scale to measure weight? Of course, yes. We are trying to measure weight, so we use weight scale. If we measure temperature, then a thermometer, that would be good. It's valid, right? So this is valid too. And then we can use the Likert scale question to measure attitude on the duty of doctors. Remember, here is key, right? Attitude. So look here, you are being asked, hey, is it the duty of doctors to keep people alive for as long as possible? Then you can make your choice, right? So you reflect your attitude. So this is a valid instrument, right? Because it aims to evaluate, it aims to collect data about your your attitude on doctor's duty. That's good. Oh, okay, valid, okay? And again, so then another one is that if it is this, then we are using the other one. We are talking about reliability. What is reliability? Reliability, we have validity, we make sure validity. Then the next issue we think about is reliability.
Can we say like reliability is how you communicate with understandings?
I really cannot hear you.
Can we say that reliability is your ability to replicate either your findings or measurement in another study?
But that's another issue. When we talk about replicate the findings of your study, we are talking about external, we are talking about the worthiness, the trustworthiness of your study. If you some scholars will fabricate their data to show the preferable results, right? So other scholars, other scientists will try to replicate the process of his study, trying to verify whether their findings stay the same, right? So this is another issue. But when we talk about reliability, basically it asks one question. We have a validity, right? We have, if so, means that we have the validity. We make sure that validity is there. We are using the right research instrument to collect the data we need to answer our research questions. Good. Then the next one is to ask, does this research instrument provide this answer using appropriate methods and procedures? That is, we try to make sure two things. One, internal reliability refers to the precision of the instrument. Precision. Internally, we make sure that the research instrument is solid and precision, okay? The other one, external reliability. The issue about external reliability means that we need to make sure that every time we measure, the process follows some certain systematic ways, because we need to make sure the measurements are consistent. For example, if I use a weight scale to measure your height, right? Then I will ask you to stand here, follow SOP, and I measure your height, and the first time I measure is 162. Then how about the second measurement? I follow the same procedure. Then the measurement, the result of the measurement is 162. And the third time I followed was the same procedure. The measurement is 162.1 acceptable, right? And you can imagine this. If I repeat the process many times, then the answer should be consistent. If this kind of consistency is assured, then I have the measurement reliability. So measurements must be consistent. But how can you make sure that although your measurement process may be consistent, but how can you make sure that your result is consistent? The first one, you need to check the reliability itself for the research instrument. That is, we call internal reliability. We need to make sure the precision of the research instrument. Is that right? So imagine this. A weight scale available in the market, internally it is very reliable because it is made with a very high-tech, precise for the measurement, right? So there's no problem. So internal reliability refers to the precision of the research instrument. So if you have a very precise research instrument, and also you follow a consistent way to measure, systematic way, then your measurements can be consistent, right? So in this regard, your measurements are reliable, okay? So basically, how can you make sure that your measurements are reliable? You have to make sure that methods and procedure are systematic and standardized. Every process is the same. So basically, we have two issues here, validity and reliability. Is that right? Okay, validity refers to the instrument is valid to collect data that you need to answer your research questions. If you want to investigate the average height, then your research instrument must be a high scale or something that is capable for the measurement of height. Is that right? But if you are using a weight scale to collect height, then you do not have a valid research instrument. It's very important. Okay, so far are you with me? And let's see this one. This is just a very short. Are you sick a lot? Here comes, hey, that's not a fair question, but I can tell you how I get my job done. So basically, a human resource officer tries to determine whether he is really in need for a sick leave, right? So, hey, are you sick a lot? This kind of measurement is not systematic. It's not standardized. It's not standardized. So you can imagine this. The data you collect will be unreliable. Is that right? So a real professional human resource officer would not ask a question like this. She would ask, okay, what kind of sickness you had, and do you have the evidences provided by the clinic, and so on, right? This is the standard procedure. So very important to keep in mind. When we say that we collect data, it's not only about the validity of the tool, it's also about the reliable measurements of the tool, okay? Because you need to use the tool to collect data. Is that right? Okay, so this is something to keep in mind. Let's move on. So, and who decides that an instrument is measuring what it is supposed to measure? We know we need to have a research instrument valid to collect data that we need for our research question, right? But how can you make sure that this research instrument is valid? How? Well, the magic word is literature. Literature. You need to have the evidences from the literature to support your construction of the research instrument, right? Okay? For example, if I want to understand how smart you are, And scholars in this field have indicated a standardized test of IQ, intelligence quotients, available in the market is good enough for this one, right? So basically, it is not, the validity of the tool is not based on your common sense. It's not based on Daniel says. It's not based on suddenly you have a dream about this. No, you have to come out the evidence is based on the literature to say this is valid. Okay, so this is a general idea. Validity of the research instrument is based on the evidences provided by your literature review. So literature is very important, as we have known already, right? Literature review can have 4 different functions in study. Anyone here can know? There are 4 major functions of literature reviews. What are they? Check it out in your book. Hurry up. Come on. Check it out. Hurry, hurry.
Is it for you to construct a theoretical, help you construct a theoretical background?
Yes.
Define theoretical methodology.
Yes.
Identify contribution.
Yes.
And contextualizing findings.
Yes. Great. There are 4 major functions of the literature review. And basically, not only these 4, the very, very important function for this one is when you have doubts, when you have anything you do not know about your research, you just go to your literature. So literature is something you learn from. There is a fundamental difference between literature and the data. They may look alike, but there are missions, their roles in research are totally different. Literature is anything that you need to learn to know before you are able to conduct the research. For example, when you define the research problem, of course you need to read a lot so that you have sufficient subject knowledge about the issue you want to study, right? It's very important. And when you construct your research instrument, you have to make sure that the research instrument is valid to collect data that you need to answer your research questions. So how can you make sure that the validity of the research instrument is there? Literature, right? Okay. When you construct a questionnaire, for example, and you have no idea about the formats, the requirements, the ways of efficiently designing a questionnaire. Of course, you can ask Daniel, but most of the time, you need to go to a library or go to a digital library to explore more literature for you to educate yourself how to construct a questionnaire. If you are conducting an interview, of course, you still require the same process of constructing a research, an interview protocol and an interview schedule. You need that. And who is going to teach you? Well, the answer is very simple. Yourself. You need to go to the library to find out the construction of literature, construction of the interview. And once you have, let's say, interview, a schedule, you have an interview schedule and interview protocol that you can use. That is a research instrument for you to conduct interview, right? So you need to bring the tool to meet your contacts, meet your interviewees. Then what will be the proper process for you to conduct the interview? You have no idea, right? And if you ask me, I don't have too much information to you too, although I know a little, but not comprehensive, because there are many, many details out there, and you have no idea. So you need to learn. Then you need to go to library again to dig out the literature related to the process or the conducting or how to do an interview study, right? Educating yourself. So basically, the primary functions of a literature review indeed include 4 different functions. The first one is to establish the theoretical foundation, theoretical framework for your study. Theory. The second one is about research methodology. Can establish the methodological approach for you to take to deal with your study, right? The third one is about the contribution. You will be able, after you care for literature review, you will be able to identify the gap left there that no one has talked about, or something you can fill in, right? You identify your contribution. And the fourth one is to contextualize your finding. What does that mean? Contextualize your finding means it can help you to identify the meanings of your findings. Again, I need to say one more time. Of course, after careful data analysis, we will have a set of findings out there. But remember, and you always need to keep that in mind, findings themselves cannot be used directly to answer your research purpose. No. It is the meanings of the findings. What do the findings mean? You have to tell us, right? So how can you identify the meanings of the findings? Do you still remember the term decision level? Decision level, right? So after you collect your data, you have major findings. Then you have to go to another set of literature to identify, try to figure out what would be the decision level you want to compare with. And after that, major findings compared with the literature decision level based on your another round of literature review. Then after the comparison, the meanings of the finding will appear. Is that right? Then you use the meaning, identify the meanings of the findings to answer your research questions, to reflect to research purpose. So basically, you start with the big research purpose. Dissect the research purpose into several research questions or research hypotheses. And this research question and hypothesis guides you to collect data. And with all your efforts, eventually you have the findings for each of the research questions. And then you continue to compare the decision level, and you have the meanings of the finding for you to answer your research purpose. Is that right? This is the whole process. So, in a very simple idea, what is it like to have a research? It seems something like you give yourself an open book essay question. And you go to collect your open data, and you use the open data to answer your question. So you give yourself a question, and then you collect data, and with all the open sources. So it's an open book essay test for yourself. Answer is provided by yourself, right? Question is provided by yourself. So it's kind of funny. Very simple. But research, remember, research, when we say that we are doing a research, we are not doing something very magical stuff. No. Basically, it's a pure logic. Just a very, very pure and simple exercise, a mental exercise. Starting from the problem definition, data collection, and the data analysis. That's it. Although there are a lot of details embedded into the 3 different parts, of course. But you can learn. How are you going to learn it? Literature, right? Okay, so that is the purpose of literature review. But basically, they are provided 4 major functions. Okay, anything else? Question?
Okay, if we're on the topic of literature review, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Because I was the moderator of the GP panel, And you said something about plagiarism in literature review. So I don't know how we should incorporate those information that we find from literature by conducting literature review into our GPA. Because
this is a very huge question. I started as an amateur scholar. When I took my courses for my master's degree, I had no idea about how to conduct an efficient literature review. I'm honest on this, right? Because I have never been trained when I was in college in this academic research. We have no any academic training on this, let alone do a research, right? But how to present a literature review? How to write up your literature review in the chapter 2 of your graduation paper? Well, basically you have to keep one thing in mind very carefully. You are using a paragraph to present an idea you want to say in this paragraph. Keep that in mind. So basically, it will be easier for you to provide yourself a topic sentence in the paragraph. Topic sentence. That is your claim. Something you want to defend, you want to express, right? And once you have a topic sentence, then you need to follow with some arguments. What is this? What is that? And why do you want to present this, right? And of course, you need to provide some evidences from the literature. Remember, basically one paragraph only argue about one idea. And the evidences from the literature should be in the key position, but not many. Not too many. Key position. For example, they use a number as percentage and a rough idea. If you have a paragraph, normally you should have at least 70% of arguments come out from yourself. And with 20-30% of the evidences come out from the literature for supporting purpose. So basically, literature review, the evidences provided by literature is used to support your topic sentence only. So there are many different forms, different ways for you to write. And I often see this. We have, let's say, we have a paragraph. Well, our students are very interested in this one. So let's say, paragraph, this is a whole paragraph. Let's say this is whole paragraph, okay? Normally, your idea should be like this. This is your topic sentence, is that right? And then you will continue to illustrate your arguments. So this is your arguments. But for the supporting purpose, you would sometimes say, oh, okay, please, according to this, we have some idea, right? And you continue to provide your own arguments and to put in the conclusion here. So look here, visual ad for you. The yellow parts refer to your own arguments. And in all the arguments is supposed to provide more illustration about your topic sentence. Is that right? And the green part is the evidence from literature. So basically, all this paragraph has only one citation. Is that right? This is the proper way. And also, in your literature review, you have different paragraphs, right? So how can you make sure that your arguments are logical? Basically, in academic writing, it will be much easier for you to, if you follow all the standardized format, it will be much easier for you to only look at the title sentence. Topic sentence, right? So if you have 10 paragraphs, the topic sentence if you follow the 10 topic sentence throughout this one, and it's logical to present your whole idea, you are done. It's fine. Because 10 paragraph, the contents of the 10 paragraph used to support the 10 different topic sentences, right? That is good enough. Okay? So this is the good way for you to present literature review. Of course, there are some other issues which I hope I have some other opportunity to tell you how to create the outline for literature review. There is a standard way for you to do so. It's very logical, very easy, but no, I don't. The other way, I have seen a lot of students do this, and which is very, very wrong. Very wrong. Let's say this one. Again, we have one paragraph here. Now, okay, first one, there is a block from some scholar. There is another block from another scholar. And this is a block from another scholar. And this is another block from some other scholar. And this is the end of the story. Yes, I did see a lot of citations. Oh my goodness, there are 4 citations, right? And maybe there's another one here. But can you see the ridiculous part of this kind of construction? First, this is plagiarism. You have there's no any idea coming out from your own. You just copy. Students, especially like us, beginners, always believe it has a very, very wrong perception. That's, I read it, then that must be mine. I read it. Oh, and Daniel, our professor said that we need to have a citation. So I read this, I put it up here, I get a citation. I give a note. So I have a note here. Oh, I fulfill my responsibility. And I have it here, right? Okay? It looks, wow, legit, but it's totally wrong. Overall, if you carefully look at the construction of the paragraph, there's nothing coming out from you as a researcher, right? This is wrong, totally wrong, very, very wrong. And the previous style I just told you is correct way for you to lay out your literature review. Okay, for a starter, just give you some idea. Don't just copy and paste. Although you have fulfilled all the citation requirements, but that is still plagiarism, isn't it? Right? So be careful with this one. Well, the screw will only tighter and tighter. So every year we make some improvement and more requirement from the students, because we told you that you have to be careful for this. Then you should be able to avoid this kind of mistakes, right? So this is wrong, very, very wrong. Literature review. And how about the outline of literature? And I will spend some time to tell you. I will try to find the time to tell you how to create a reasonable structure for your literature review. It's indeed, there's reasons out there, always, okay? Whew. Any question?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I know it's very difficult. We have so little time. We have so many things. We have so unlimited requirements from many different sources. So we try our best. We try our best. But one time I saw a slogan from a from grammar school. It says, 没有教不好的学生，没有教不好的学生，只有不是怎么样？哦，没有学不好的功课，只有不知道如何去学习的学生。We're making sense. It means that all students can learn, but the methods are very important. The logic of learning is very important. Everyone can learn better. You can stay at home and study very hard and without real results, right? However, if you really know the ways for effective learning, You don't have to spend that much of time, and you can have a lot of effectiveness coming out from your learning. Okay, I still remember in the first year you learned English reading for international affairs, right? You learn etymology, and you learn the logical grammar. I don't know how much you still remember, but if you carefully follow that kind of mentality, your English ability should be advancing a lot significantly since then. Because I did that before. Remember, when I was in college, a freshman in college, I learned etymology by myself. That's, to some extent, I could be here as your teacher. Indeed. Remember, I started learning English just in the first year of my junior high school. So I started learning at 13 years old. Much older than your first time learning English, right? So remember, there's no stupid students. There are no stupid students. Only students who do not know how to effectively learn. That's it. So if you can learn the way. So when we do research, let's come back here. When you do research, every process, why we require this, there is a reasons out there. I beg you to try very hard to understand why we are doing this. If you know why, and you can really tell yourself, this is why I did this, I do this, then you will be fine. You will find out the ways by yourself. If you have no idea, just follow the format, just like a literature review, right? And you do not know why and why we need to have this, then it can be very, very misleading. Okay, so the ways of learning is very important. You got to know that. Okay, let's skip to the next. So, basically, literature review, this is a very simple chart I just want to show you, but it's not necessary for you to remember all the context. Basically, one very important issue, that is, everything you do not know, go to literature. That's it. Is that right? Whenever you have no idea, go to literature. Go to review literature by yourself, which means self-education is very important. And let's go back to the basic requirements for us to conduct research. There are only two requirements, right? You need to have a set of profound knowledge about your subject. That is your subject knowledge. If you want to study social media, and you have no idea about social media, that would be very strange, right? If you want to talk about the marketing strategy of some large enterprise, and you have no idea about the general principle, the theory, the historical development of marketing strategy, and you claim yourself you want to conduct this research. So strange, isn't that? Okay, I am a doctor of philosophy in political science. I never dare to say, okay, I want to do a European study. No, because I have no any subject knowledge about Europe. I know EU, yeah, to some extent. I know Germany, yes. I have friends here from Germany, students here. Yeah, but that is not profound. I mean, profound must be solid. Is that right? So in the future, in the next 1 year, when you do your graduation paper, you look at your study issue. Then you have to know one thing. You need to have a very profound and a sophisticated set of knowledge about the study issue in your research topic. You need to have. Unfortunately, in classes you do not learn this, right? You have to educate yourself. Yeah? And the process of education starts with literature review. You need to go there and read, that's it. Very simple. And the second requirement for you to conduct research is the very good knowledge in research methodology. And this is our purpose here. That's why we sit here, right? So in this classroom, you will be amazed to find out 41 students have 41 different topics. But all of us follow the same logical process of doing research. Is that right? Research methodology is universal. Remember, research methodology is universally applied to any kind of research because it is methodology, the logical process of doing research. But the research issue, the study issue that every student deals now here will be different. So for the 41 students sitting here, you need to have a 41 different sets of subject knowledge, right? And go home and study by yourself. Indeed, you have to have this kind of concept. So look here, literature review. These are some of the functions, some of the issues that you feel puzzled, that you can provide answer for yourself. And teachers cannot teach you. You have to educate yourself, okay? So that's why we say these are the sum of the questions. The review of the literature can answer you. There are many others. Whenever you have questions, go there and read, okay? Okay, now let's talk about types of validity. Validity. Basically, validity has two kinds: internal validity and external validity. Very simple. Internal validity refers to when we construct a research instrument or when we look at the study itself. What is the issue about validity internally? Okay? Internal validity has three different kinds of validity, three different types. Construct validity, content validity, and face validity. And external validity refers to when we want to apply the study to other setting, whether it is valid or not. So this is the so-called external validity. And external validity has two kinds. One is the concurrent validity. We have one study A, study B, study C, right? If all of these studies focus on the same study issue, then the findings should be similar. Is that right? Suppose that there are 10 other studies they all focus on the learning efficacy of the students in college, right? Although their study population may be somewhat different. They have. And my study also aims at exploring your learning efficacy in this school, right? Okay. My findings, my study should be very similar. My findings should be very similar to theirs. If my findings are similar to their findings, my approach are similar to their approach, then my study has concurrent validity, which means that all of the different research will lead to a similar conclusion. Concurrent validity. Is that right? Okay. And the other one is predictive validity. It means, can I use the study, the results of the study, the process of the study, use it to predict another scenario, very similar to my study in another setting? If it is, then it has predictive validity. If it does not have, then it does not have predictive validity. First, let's look at the differences between internal validity and external validity. Let's look at external validity first. External validity is something, as a researcher, we have no guarantee when we conducted our study. Although we hope that our study has external validity, right? But when we conduct our study, we really we are not so sure the external validity. whether it can be applied to other setting, or whether it can produce the very similar findings, similar conclusions, just like other studies. We have no guarantee. So basically, when we conduct our research, we try our best, but we seldom elaborate how we are going to secure our external validity. We seldom talk about that because it's something beyond our control. But at least we will talk about internal validity. Internal validity, very important, because this is something we really have a very tight control. We can make sure about the internal validity. Internal validity started with construct, then content, and then face. Okay, I will give you some idea. What? Let's say this one. Basically, when we say validity, we have to make sure when we construct a research instrument, the first step for us is to make sure it meets construct validity. Construct validity, let's use a very classical examples we use them for many times. The impact. So the impact, So the impact of alcoholism on family, right? Okay, this is very classical. And still remember the process of operationalization started from concept, indicators, variables, and decision level. And actually, the process of operationalization has three major steps. One is the identification of concept, right? And then we go for a set of indicators. And based on the indicators, we continue to develop the variables. We are able to collect data. We used to collect data. Okay, so let's look here. The impact of alcoholism on family. What is the study issue here? The impact of alcoholism on family. Just like the impact of something on A, right? A is family. So we need to understand the concept of family here. We have a family, right? We have a family. So what is family about? Because we need to understand what construct family, the concept of family. So that we were able to develop a set of variables, right? So look here, it's very important. They are all correlated. They are not a mystery. They are all correlated. So here we have a concept of family, right? So after careful literature review, remember this is the key. Literature review. After careful literature review, we know that the indicators can be used to reflect the concept of family, include three. One, marital status. Is that right? The other one is family finance. The third one is children's way of life. We have three indicators, right? Okay, now let's talk about construct validity. If this is a research instrument, we are creating a research instrument, right? We want to measure, we want to collect data that can help us to answer the marital status, family finance, and the children's way of life, right? So basically, we need to include the three indicators to construct the questionnaire. Is that right? You cannot take one away. If you take one away, then if you for example, if I only leave marital status and family finance, then I have only two indicators you see here. And then the construction is not complete. Is that right? So I need to make sure the construction is complete by including the three indicators. If I do this, then the research instrument has construct validity. Okay, very simple, right? Construct validity refers to the indicators have to be included completely to reflect the concept of the family. So if I do this, then I have construct validity. And can you do this? Yes, of course, because you can review the literature to make sure that you have the complete set of indicators included, right? Okay, let's take a 10 minutes break. Continue. So it's very important to follow the process of operationalization to have a good idea about the construct validity, content validity, and the phase validity. Now, construct validity has been secured if we are able to make sure that all the major indicators are included into the construction of the research instrument, then we have a construct validity, right? So here, we make sure, here we have a construct validity, no problem. So we construct. And your arguments, your efforts need to be based on literature review. Remember, it's very important. Which means that the whole set of indicators are really reflecting the concept of the study issue. Is that right? So if you have done this, then you include three, then you have construct validity. Then next, what is content validity? Let's take a look. Content validity refers to in the construction of your research instrument, you have to provide a comprehensive content related to each of the indicator you include in your research instrument. Is that right? So look here, let's talk about marital status. Basically, we need to provide a comprehensive set of questions for us to collect data to reflect marital status, right? So after, again, look here, careful literature review, we know that marital status, the primary and the comprehensive components that can help us to understand marital status should be included. Let's say there are 5 major issues included here. Is that right? So if after careful literature review, we know this is the comprehensive set need to be reflect the indicator of marital status, then we need to include these contents. Is that right? Okay. So we repeat the process. To identify another set of contents we need to use to reflect marital status, family finance, and another set to reflect children's way of life. So imagine this. We provide the necessary contents can be used to reflect the marital status. Necessary contents, comprehensive contents reflect family finance, and so on, the comprehensive set to reflect the children's way of life. So if we do this, and this is supported by literature review, then the research instrument has content validity. Okay, you get it? And all of these efforts are internal, right? So now, in this case, we have content validity. Content validity. Is that right? Okay. And now we are going to write it in a question or statement so that we can use to collect data, right? When we say a variable, what is the difference between a variable and a concept? Yvonne? Huh?
I don't remember.
Okay, Jalo.
Okay, so a concept is abstract. You can't put them into, no, a concept is just abstract. And whereas variables, they are measurable.
Measurability is a primary difference between a concept and the variable. Basically, a concept and a variable are alike in one way. They are all mental image. When I say a word, you have an image in your mind, right? For example, family, mind. School number, classroom, but variable is capable of measurement. Is that right? But measurement does not need to be precise, accurate. No. The only thing that if you give up the variable, then you have the way to collect some data back based on this. Then this is a variable, right? So now, look here. We have the contents need to be included. And we know, for example, here we have 5 contents. These 5 contents represent the comprehensive contents that need to represent marital status, right? And now we are going to write it out. Then, when you write this out, you need to write it in a way that is really reflects the thing you want to collect. One time, I gave you one example about the validity of collecting math question, right? I write it. If you go east for 10 miles, go north for another 10 miles. So what is the distance you have traveled? Well, this is a math question, right? So if you read it, you find out it is talking about math questions. Then it has face validity. Very simple. The judgment of face validity is that the way of you presenting your statement indeed is trying to collect the data you really want to collect, right? So if you go east 10 miles, go north another 10 miles. So what is the distance you have been traveling? You have traveled, right? It's a math question. Fine. It passed the test for face validity. The other one. If you go east for 10 miles and go north for another 10 miles, so what have you thought through the way? It looked like a math question, right? But it's not. So it does not have face validity. Simple. Very simple, right? So look here. Face validity refers to the way of your presenting your statement. Indeed, it's measuring the thing, the data you want to collect. Then you have face validity. Okay? Very simple. So look here.
So can we say that face validity is claiming what you claim to claim?
That's another issue. We are using this to collect data. So if you say face validity means that, well, yeah, very similar to your idea. But we emphasize on data collection.
Okay.
So you express in this way and you means to collect the data. But the way of your expression does not really mean that you are capable to collect the data you want. Then this item does not have face validity. Very simple. Is that right? Okay. So look here. Construct validity, content validity, and face validity are the 3 different validities that you can do it. You can assure it by yourself, right? And with the effort, the support from the literature review. Okay, literature review are very important for you to construct. So when you construct the research instrument, the process will start from identification of the construct. And then for each of the construct, identification for the contents. for each of the contents, making sure that the way to express is the data that you are able to collect, face validity, right? But as a reader, when you judge the quality of the research, normally you will start from face validity. You look at the question, it's not measuring what I want to say, right? So when you evaluate, you will start from face, content, and construct. But if you are the designer for your research instrument, you start from construct, face, and then, construct, content, and then face validity. Okay? And the process for doing this is in reversal, which means that this logical process can be applied to all kinds of research instruments. Interview schedule, interview protocol, questionnaire, observation chart, observation list, all of the checklists for content analysis, all kinds, because it is logical. That's it, very simple, right? Okay, any question? If not, let's continue. So this is what we say about internal and external. That's it, okay? The wording here is just the way of expression, but the construct, the basic idea I have just told you. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so let's say this one, and you can do some survey. Did you have the smartphone? Can you do the survey? I hope they can. Oh, you can, yes. What's wrong? Okay, so the first one is this a valid instrument to measure pornography? Well, I have explained this before, right? So let's see your answer. Yes? How can you say yes? This is a measurement. This is not a valid instrument to measure pornography. No, it is asking your attitude toward pornography, right? Oh, come on, don't do this to me. This is wrong, very wrong. Is that right? So the answer is no. This is the correct answer. Again, let me go back to here. Is this a valid instrument for the measure pornography? No, no. Pornography itself and your attitude toward pornography is different. So be careful about the difference, okay? Now let's go to, how about this? Well, let's look at this one. Is a weight scale a valid instrument to measure the size of her butt? Well, if it is measuring her weight, then it is valid, right? So the answer should be no. It's not. It's not a valid to measure the size, the weight instead. Okay, and now let's move on to talk about reliability. Reliability refers to two issues. One is internal precision. The other one is external consistency. So basically, let's look at this one. reliability. Two things. One is internal. So which one is more precise? Let me ask you first. Which one can be used to measure the length of a pencil or a pen? Which one? What do you think? Which one can be? Both?
Both can be used just at one.
Okay, and anyone else? Which one can be used to measure the length of a weight of a pen?
Both.
Both. There's one answer. Both. Yes, the answer is both. So if these two instruments can be used to measure length of the pen, so are both instruments valid for the measurement? Yes. So keep in mind, when we say validity, it's a yes or no question. Yes or yes, they have validity, or no, they do not have validity. So when we say validity, it's a matter of binary, yes or no. That's it. So there is no extend label of validity issue here. No, we don't talk about this. Rubber band and this ruler, both of these two things can be used to measure the length of the pen, right? So both are valid. But among the valid instruments, we need to choose which one is more reliable, right? So look at this. Which one is more reliable? Of course, we will all agree to this one, right? This one. Is that right? This one is more reliable because we saw two different features here. One, the first one is more precise, precision, more with the quality of precision in it. And this one is not, right? Elastic nature of the rubber band. And we saw the other characteristics of the two tools is that the one can provide consistent measurement and this one cannot. So internally, this one is more precise. Is that right? Externally, this one can provide more consistent measurements for every time you took the measure. So when we talk about reliability, there is a different level of reliability. Okay, keep in mind, this is very important. Validity is yes or no. Basically, you need to find out valid tools first. If you have the luck to have several tools, all of them are valid for the measurement you want to collect data, right? Then the next consideration for you is to think which one is more reliable. When you examine which one is more reliable, the first examination is look at the precision, internal precision of this instrument, right? And the second one is that you will choose the more precise one, more consistent one internally, and to make the measurement. Externally, you will try to make sure which measurement will produce more consistent result. So internally, so whenever you are choosing a research instrument, remember, the first consideration, let me ask you, is validity or reliability. Which one should go first? Validity or reliability? Validity. Validity must be there, or anything else is nothing. Okay? Once you assure validity, then you continue to consider how reliable it is. Reliability. So you never choose a tool that is very reliable but not valid for your data collection. For example, if I want to collect the height, right, and I use a weight scale is not valid, but it can produce very reliable results or measurements. Is that right? Because I measure U, every time I will get a number that will be very consistent. So the commercial weight scale is very reliable in its measurement, but it is not valid for us to collect data reflecting the answers for your height. Is that right? So remember, when you design, when you choose your research instrument, always consider validity first. Without validity, then there will be no research. Okay? Validity, make sure it is valid, and then move forward to consider reliability. Validity is yes and no. Reliability is the difference between degree of the risk. Some of them are highly reliable, some of them are not so reliable. Okay? This is the basic idea. So let's talk about the factors affecting the reliability of research instrument. When we say that reliability, we talk about one is internal precision, the other one is external measurement consistency, right? Okay, so let's try to identify some of the factors. The first one is the wording of the question. Let me take this away. Well, you have a lot of ways to describe the car crash here, right? Car crash here. In Chinese, in English, in Japanese, there are many ways. Okay, and look here. Without looking at the picture here, you see smashed and a hit. Can you use these two terms to identify the same instant? Not really. Is that right? So the wording of the question can influence the reliability of your measurement. And let's go back to the last lesson. The lecture is difficult, is hard to approach, right? See this? And we find out that it's very difficult to make a measurement based on this. Then that question is not reliable because it produces ambiguous and partial answers from the respondents. Just like this one, smash, hit. It would be very difficult for us just look at the two words and refer to the same instant, right? Okay, so the wording of the question is one thing. And the other one, the physical setting. Look at this. This is very, very formal, right? I think that this should be in a studio. Student studio for broadcasting, taking video, right? So look here, the teacher here is sitting so formally. There are a formal setting here, right? So imagine this. In this formal setting, and what would be the dialogues between them? Should be very official, very sophisticated, right? Formal exchange. But if we move them into the cafeteria, let's say Starbucks, what would be the dialogue between the teacher and the student? Would be something else, right? So the setting, the physical setting will influence the nature of your data. Well, certainly. And you can imagine this. The data collected from this formal setting and the data collected from the other informal setting, they are different in their nature. So how can we make sure that all our measurements are reliable? How?
We have to make sure that the study is conducted in very similar settings.
Right. It's true. We have to keep the systematic way of data collection. Systematic way. It's very important. However, in our real life, it's very difficult to keep this. So that's why in qualitative research, remember, in qualitative research, we, the researchers, are part of the data collection. So we have to describe the whole process of data collection. One day you interview one, let's say one lady from a very bad family, you describe. You describe the process, what happened. When you got into the door, there's a vase just throwing out from over your head, and you heard the smash sound of the glasses. Wow, that says a lot of things, right? And one day you got into another family, is a very huge mansion, and the ladies and gentlemen all dressed so formal and so well. That will be another issue, right? It's very difficult, especially for social science, social studies, to keep the process of the data collections systematically and standardized. Very difficult, very difficult. So you have to describe. Let the judgment of your data quality to the readers. Okay, you have to describe it. Okay?
And also sometimes what the clothes that the interviewer wears also affect because it induces demand characteristics.
Yeah, of course. If the teacher is dressing a Santa Claus outfit, that would be only making some jokes, right? So they're all different. And the respondent mood, okay. Everyone likes to talk to this guy, right? Not this one. Is that right? So if you are a sour face, you are wet blanket all the time, then the conversation from you will be very, very unpleasant. You can imagine this, right? So the respondent's mood at the time of the interview and the nature of the interactions, dog and the robot, canine and the people can be very different. Is that right? Okay. Interactions, also all of this can affect the way you collect data. And this one, the regression effect of an instrument. It's not easy to present this, and I will use this one. Okay. You don't need to have a very sophisticated knowledge about the statistics, but just give you an idea. A very simple idea, let's say this one. This is pre-test and the post-test. For each subject, this subject needs to take 2 tests. So for each subject has 2 scores, right? Pre-test score and post-test score. So basically, each respondent, each subject will have 2 scores. So X and Y, they will location over there, right? So for example, the students here, it has the pre-test score and the post-test score. So the crossover is here. Is that right? Okay. So basically, the research design is very simple here. We have a treatment. Suppose this is a new way of education, of teaching method. We have a pre-test. We have a post-test. Is that right? We have 2 scores. So with the 2 score, we can have X, Y. Okay, so that is a chart. So look here. We have 400 cases pre-test. And we have 400 cases post-test. The average score for each is 118. So there's no difference at all, right? So basically, these 2 groups, the possibility of their similarity, the possibility of the 2 mean is equal, is 99.4%. Look here, this is a possibility. So basically, the treatment is no effect. It's not no effectiveness at all. Did you see this? The rationale. We try to see that a lot of countries here are developing the vaccine for COVID-19, right? So this is the vaccine, and this is observation, pre-test and post-test. You can imagine this. Okay, so if we have a whole data, there are 400 people here. Then the X has no effect. So far, are you with me? X, the treatment has no effect at all. Fine. Okay, so this. But sometimes, some researchers would manipulate the data by doing what? Let's see. This one. Take away. Now let's look here. We keep only 200. Low achiever here. And the other part, complete take away. We just take away, right? We take away half of the data, half of the subject. We try to produce some meaningful result for the treatment. So now still we have all observation, pre-test, treatment and post-test observation. But now there are some differences. The difference is that the skewed, the manipulated observation, we keep only 200, and you see the average score. Pre-test average score is 90, and after that is 100. Wow, we are so happy. Look here. The possibility of these two numbers being different, these two numbers being different is less than 1,000, right? Okay, so we say the two mean are significantly different. Okay, so look here. Oh, this is good. Everyone like this, right? Especially for the people who pays the money. Oh, good. Look here, we have some significant result. This is part of the regression effect. And now, let's move further. Look here. 200 is too small. The result is not that beautiful. So let's try to do a little bit magic here. We keep only 23 with a low achiever, very low achiever in the beginning. Is that right? We only keep this. So we have 23. Let's look at here. 46 and progressing to 76. So now we want to examine whether these two means are the same. But the probability here tells us not. It's less than 0.001, right? Okay, so statistically, the two means, the two average scores are different. So it seems like, oh, look here. The X treatment here is so good, so perfect. Regression effect again, right? Look here. Basically, with the complete sample size, we know that the treatment is no effect. But with the manipulation of the data, we find out that X is effective. Strange, right? So you have to be very careful about this. When you explain your experiment, when you explain your findings, you have to be careful about this kind of regression effect. It's very important. Why? Most of the time, for example, especially for educational research. For example, I have 20 students. I have a new way to teach. So I teach you. I found out that it's effective. But the 20 students, maybe something like this. Maybe something like this, right? Is that right? But I found out it's so effective for teach 20-some students. So can I use the methods to teach all students at Wenzhou? And not I'm quite sure about that. It should be also very good, a way to teach all students at Wenzhou. Not really. Not really, right? Okay, so you have to be careful. This regression effect happens a lot. Some is just because of the smaller sample size. Some happen because the manipulation, intentional manipulation from the researchers. But basically, you have to know this can happen. Okay? Okay, let's continue to here. Okay, so let's go to. So let's look at reliability, then how to determine a reliability of an instrument. For example, we have we have a questionnaire to survey the attitude toward your attitude toward pornography, right? Okay, so how can we make sure that instrument is reliable? Basically, there are two different ways, external and internal. Externally, we can test and retest. For example, I use a trial test to test, you have the answers. I use the same test to give another small group to see whether the answers are very similar. Should be, or otherwise that reliability can be a problem, right? And I can use the parallel form of the same test. I have 20 questions. I randomly rotate the order of the questions. and to give the same group of people, then they should be the same, or otherwise strange. And we can use the internal consistent procedures, and there's a split half technique. And SPS has the procedure to deal with this. You need to determine the alpha level of the questions. And alpha level is larger than alpha is this. Alpha level is greater than 0.7 is regarded as reliable. But there is a further technique you will learn in the future. But it is a split half technique. Okay. So how about this? Give some answer. Okay, let's look at this one. So is an instrument able to produce a consistent measurements, valid and reliable? The answer is no. What's, what is that? Oh. What did I do? Okay, check it out again. Okay. Okay. The answer for this one is no. Why is that? When we talk about consistent measurements, only refer to reliability, not valid. For example, a weight scale is reliable to produce numbers, right? But it is not valid to measure your height. So validity and reliability are two things. So if you take this away, then your answer is good. I'll be careful for this, okay? Again, validity and reliabilities are different. Validity refers to the research instrument is valid to collect data for you, to answer your research questions. But reliable refers to measurements. A consistent measurements produced by the research instrument is reliable. Okay? So you are wrong. Okay? Next. How about this one? Okay, so is a rubber band a valid instrument to measure weight? Well, the answer is yes.
Weight?
Rubber band, right? Pen? Can I use this to measure? Yes, of course. Heavier, lighter, heavier. The only problem is that it's not precise, right? but it is capable of measuring weight. So it is valid. Remember? Is that right? Okay. So the answer is yes. So again, students here are not right. Okay? So sad. It's okay. It's okay. Beginner. Let's try this one. Okay, so interviewing all interviewees with the same happy setting is a reliable approach to collect data. The answer is yes. Why? The key here is the same. Same. It doesn't matter whether it is happy or miserable or manipulated. Same. Okay? If that is the same, then it is reliable. Okay? How about this one? Okay, let's see one more time. No. Remember the regression effect? The regression effect I just told you, right? With 400 subjects, actually the comprehensive 400, the average score is the same. But if you take away half, then the score, the difference between the two means is significant, right? So the treatment has not, it appears to have an effect. But unfortunately, if you look at the whole picture, there's no effect at all, right? So here, no, it's not. When we say it's definitely caused by the treatment, no, it's not. It's not. So you have to be very careful about all the possibility of threats. The threat, when we talk about threat, it means that anything that can sabotage the validity of our analysis, that's a threat, okay? Okay, we finished. Next time we talk about the selecting a sample, and we have a quiz 9. And the next portfolio for you is to how to assure the validity of your research instrument. I have said that, right? Remember, throughout the process of operationalization, you will find out the concept, indicators, and the variables, right? Throughout the process of operationalization, you are able to secure construct validity by including the whole set of indicators in your research instrument. When you include the comprehensive contents for each of the indicators and put on your research instrument, you have content validity. When you write out all the details, all the questions, all the statement that is capable of reflecting the thing you want to collect, then you have face validity. This is very important. So you need to tell me, how are you going to assure the validity of your research instrument? Okay? And remember, you are talking about your own research topic. And the second one is how to assure its reliability. It's referred to your research instrument. Internally, how to make sure that it is precise enough. Externally, how to make sure that your process of collecting data, your measurements, can assure the quality of consistency. Internal precision and external consistency. Talk about this, okay? You'll be fine. You are almost way to the end of the semester. And again, thank you for your efforts on the reviewing sessions. We, faculty members, do appreciate your contribution to the department. Okay, anything else? If not, we'll call it a day and have a good lunch hunting. See ya. Bye.